course. So on to the messy part about college. I think so far what I've showed you guys is like, this is what college is like when you are perfect. I mean, some of the things I talked about weren't perfect, but like when you're not dealing with real world problems and real world issues that can occur. I have 4 different buckets and I'll be happy after each of them. Please ask questions. I will be more than happy to give my 2 cents on them. But in a perfect world, you go to college, no issues arise, and you are able to graduate perfectly and nothing happened. But I think that's not realistic, and I think it's kind of a disservice to not talk about the messy and hard parts that come. That's not to say that it's not worth it, and that's still not a great experience, but they will arise. And starting off with the first one, which is family. You will be balancing the expectations of your parents on top of the goals you have for yourself. Sometimes they will be the same, sometimes they won't be. And even when they are the same, you'll find out that they're not necessarily the exact precise thing that you're thinking. This is coming from someone who I told my parents I was going to be a lawyer from the very first day I stepped into college. I still had many calls, many arguments with my mom and dad, but it still worked out because I recognize that even though there is conflict, I think when you try to take a step back and know that they are supporting you and that they want you to succeed. Although it could not seem like that, it can seem that maybe like you're trying to communicate something and it's not working out. Recognizing that they do have your best interest at hand really helped me out a lot in just like calming down, taking a step back, and not just like, I would say, going off the deep end, for lack of better words. In that though, when there is conflict, I think it's really important that you address it as quickly as possible and you don't let it kind of simmer. Oftentimes you find that like the biggest issues arise when you know there's a problem, you know that you did something that your parents aren't going to be happy about, you know your parents have a set of expectations that you might not have been reaching, and then you just kind of like bury it and ignore it and don't address it until you're forced to. And as someone who's done it that method, it just makes it a lot harder. Emotions are a lot more heightened and it just feels a lot harder to deal with. I think really just starting off with whatever concerns or issues you have day one have really helped in just like getting over it in terms of like dealing with the issue and having a more positive outcome. That being said, you should have a game plan of these conversations and when you're going to go into them. And then also recognize that like sometimes, this is a really unsatisfying thing to say and I'm really sorry to say it, but like sometimes you're just not going to get what you want, for lack of better words. Sometimes like there are things that you envision for your life that you really want to have, or some like really specific thing that you want to do, but like you have to recognize that like you are in a compromise with your parents and that you need to make sure that you're not unaware of, I think, the situation that you're in, especially even if they're supporting you like small amounts, not paying for everything, but like helping you out and still being there for you. It's like, I think something that was really hard for me at first is this feeling of like thinking that like you know what's best for yourself, and it's like, I know what's best for myself right now at my age, if that makes any sense, but it's like my parents know what's best for me right now in the long term. And those things are not congruent, I think, as a fact. Like they're not always going to be the same thing. You might think that like what you know is best for yourself right now to go through is actually the way that it should be, and what your parents are thinking is wrong. And like, I think 2 things can be true at the same time has really been what I had to do to center that, where it's like, I think that this is what I need, my parents think that this is what I need, we need to compromise, and I need to also understand that like, where can I give and take in that, I think, back and forth with them. That being said, that's not an easy thing to do, and some issues are a lot harder to kind of have that back and forth with. You guys know yourself the most and how to navigate them, but I do think you should go in, if the biggest thing I take from the family category is just like, addressing your issues really early on and not being shy to bring them up is the biggest thing. Any